Alright, you guys, welcome to today's experiment. We're going to be looking at pine cones today. So right here, I have my chart made. So we're going to be putting 2 pine cones in the oven, and we're going to submerge 2 pine cones in super cold water. And we're going to see how the pine cones change. So the first thing we need to do is we need to measure our pine cones for both the length and width of each one. So we're going to start with this one. We're going to measure from the very top to the bottom. So this one is about 1.5 inches long. So we're going to come over here and write that. So that's 1.5 inches. And then we want to measure how wide it is from the widest point. So that's going to be right down here. So we take it and we spin it around. And it looks like it comes to right here, which is about 5 3/4 inches. So we're going to write that here. So 5 3/4. All right, and then we're going to try our second one for going in the oven. We're going to start by measuring the length again. So this one is about 2 inches. Then we're going to measure our width at the widest point again. That's about 6 3/4 here. So we'll write that down. All right, so now let's measure our pine cones going in cold water. So that's about 1 3/4 inches. And then we're going to measure the width. So that's about 5 3/4 inches. So we'll set that there. And our final pine cone. This one is about 2 inches long. And then our width is about 6 inches. All right, you guys, so we're gonna do our cold water experiment. So we have our 2 pine cones, and as you can see, we've got some ice in our water, so it's extra cold. All right, so we're gonna put our pine cones in, and then we're gonna put a plate on top of them, so we make sure they're completely submerged in our icy water. All right, so we're gonna check back in 3 minutes and see what happens with them. You guys, so it's been 3 minutes. We're gonna take our pine cones out of our icy bath. We're gonna let them rest for 3 more minutes, and then we're gonna take our measurements. You guys, so these pine cones, after they've been sitting for a few minutes after coming out of the ice, so now we're gonna measure them. All right, so we're gonna start with our first one. So height-wise, this is 2 inches tall. And then width-wise, at the widest point, this is 5 inches. So we're gonna write that down. This was 2 inches and this is now 5 width. All right, so let's go to our second one. So our height for this one, 1 3/4. And then our width for this one is about 4 3/4. All right, you guys, so we just got our pine cones out of the oven. So now we're going to measure them. All right, so I'm gonna start at the very top for this one. So this one's about 3 inches. I lied, 2.5 inches. And then let's measure the width. All right, so that is 7 inches across. All right, so now let's measure our smaller one. So this one's about 1.5 inches tall, and it is 6 inches wide. All right, so now let's put our pine cones side by side.
What are some differences that you can see between our two different groups of pine cones? Alright, so let's talk about what happened. As you can see from our chart, pine cones placed in the oven increased in width by about 1/4 inch, while pine cones placed in cold water decreased on average by about 1 inch in width. Why do you think that these differences occurred? Alright, so pine cones act as containers for carrying pine seeds. When the weather becomes damp and cold, the scales of the pine cone close, keeping the seeds safe until the seasons change and the weather becomes hot and dry. This allows the seeds the best chance at survival. In our experiment, we were able to mimic the changing of the seasons by using cold water to recreate winter weather, and by using an oven to recreate the hot and dry weather associated with the summer. As we can tell from our results, in the cold and damp, pine cones close in on themselves to protect their seeds, while, when left in somewhere warm, hot, and dry, the pine cones open ready to release their seeds. What other adaptations have you noticed when looking at plants?